Iron Gwazi, located at Busch Gardens Tampa, looks to be one of the best RMC coasters ever created. That is, if it ever opens. This epic coaster has been getting ready to open ever since last year. However, Busch Gardens is still waiting on quote-unquote the best time to open the ride. With coasters like Velicicoaster opening and new coasters being announced, the hype for Iron Gwazi is slowly dying down. So that begs the obvious question of when will Iron Gwazi actually open? And why is Busch Gardens Tampa waiting so long? This video is going to take a completely different route than most channels, so get ready to dive deep into theme park business as I give you my take on what is actually happening with Iron Gwazi. First off, let's get something straight. Iron Gwazi is indeed 100% ready to open. I've heard some crazy theories suggesting that the park has encountered some issues with construction. However, that simply isn't the case. To suggest that Iron Gwazi is broken also infers that all of the other 2020 attractions such as Icebreaker and Pantheon and Emperor are also broken. This isn't true. Recently, the ride tested with park officials, so we know that the ride is 100% operational. So what's the problem? Well, SeaWorld Entertainment is simply waiting for quote-unquote the best time to open the ride. However, their definition of the perfect time is far different than ours. You see, with every attraction, such as a coaster, parks want to receive a return on investment. This can take many forms, such as increased sales, better media coverage, or more likely, an increase in park attendance. Busch Gardens is purposely waiting to open the ride in order to maximize one of these factors. And if I had to guess, I would say an increase in attendance. Well, what are they waiting for? In order to answer that question, we need to look at all the other non-open 2020 attractions from SeaWorld Entertainment, or more specifically, Pantheon. Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg is very similar to Iron Gwazi. Like Gwazi, Pantheon is going to be the most thrilling ride at the park, and likely become the park's new icon. But because the park is midway through its season, it's not as profitable to open Pantheon, because they'll have to close it again in a few months. Pantheon couldn't open midway through the season because it would not maximize revenue. Gwazi, on the other hand, is a little bit different. BGT doesn't have any type of off-season, as the park is a year-round park. And the reason that Iron Gwazi hasn't opened so far is probably because they didn't want to open the ride with the presence of any COVID restrictions. But now that things are coming back to normal, the ride wouldn't have anything stopping it. So why isn't it open? Well, I believe the answer has to do with the business side of running a theme park, or more specifically one word, and that word is marketing. Marketing plays a huge role in the amusement industry. It's how amusement parks explore their demographic, advertise to them, and create a loyal clientele. It plays a crucial role in how parks develop their investment strategy. Under the huge umbrella of theme park marketing lies advertising and public relations, which is how parks let the public know they have a fancy new attraction. To put it bluntly, advertising and PR is one of the main ways that brings the general public into theme parks. I could go more in depth, but that's beside the point. So what am I getting to? Well, the reason Iron Gwazi isn't open is not because the ride isn't ready, but it's because the park doesn't have an effective marketing or advertising strategy. Now, before you start thinking I'm crazy, let me explain, because there's far more to this theory than you may think. When a park adds a new coaster, there's way more that goes into it than just the coaster itself. With it comes tons of advertising in order to make sure that the investment performs as expected. This is usually in the form of commercials, branded merchandise, billboards, yearly souvenir cups, and etc. Basically anything needed to create hype and excitement. And this excitement is not just for coaster enthusiasts, but it's mainly for the general public. Before the pandemic, Iron Gwazi definitely had a huge marketing strategy behind it, or in other words, a foolproof plan to make sure that Iron Gwazi brings in the crowds needed for it to be a worthwhile investment. We know for a fact that prior to spring of 2020, Busch Gardens pre-purchased countless billboards, commercial spots, and dated merchandise in order to make Iron Gwazi a smash hit. In fact, Iron Gwazi's opening day celebration, media day, and soft openings were most likely planned and paid for months in advance. Basically, everything was good to go until the pandemic. When the shutdowns happened, Busch Gardens was put in a position of uncertainty. They didn't know whenever or if ever they would finally be able to open the ride. They had to put a pause on their marketing campaign for Gwazi. When the park finally reopened in summer of 2020, the park couldn't open Gwazi because it wouldn't be financially wise to do so. Just think about it. Last year, they were still seating every other row, reducing capacity and facing labor shortages. At this point, Busch Gardens still didn't know when they were planning on opening the ride, so they didn't start to plan the big marketing push needed for success. Fast forward to summer of 2021, and things are starting to go back to normal. So why wasn't Gwazi open? Well, Busch Gardens didn't know that it would take all the way until summer of 2021 to reach a post-COVID atmosphere at Busch Gardens. So rather than guess when things would go back to normal, they decided to wait until it actually happened. Plus, to be a successful investment, Gwazi couldn't have opened in the same time frame as velocicoaster, because velocicoaster would completely overshadow it. So now that we're starting to go back to normal, I believe that Busch Gardens is finally starting to plan their big media push for Gwazi. And Busch Gardens definitely has an opening day already in mind and they're planning for it. So when is it? Well, first off, if I had to guess, I'd say that it takes about 2 months to plan an opening of a large-scale ride. So if they determined that things went back to normal in June, the earliest that the ride could open would be in August. However, there's an issue with that. August is at the very end of summer, when people are getting ready to go back to school, so theme parks aren't as big of a deal then. To open a ride in August wouldn't maximize attendance, pass sales, or revenue, so I highly doubt that we will see them reopening it then. Usually the most successful rides are the ones that open at the start of a big event such as a season opening start of summer or a festival/park event. So when could this be? Well, I believe that there are two likely options. Number 1, the ride opens sometime in October during the park's Halloween event. I personally don't like this option very much, however it is definitely plausible, especially if the park has a thought out advertising campaign. And the second option would be for the park to open the ride in super early March of next year. This would give the park an amazing start to the new year, and it would still be early enough that the weird Fun Spot Atlanta RMC wouldn't steal any media coverage. I also fully expect the park to advertise this ride a ton, like them counting down the days until opening, starting like 100 days in advance or something. Basically, everything I said in this video can also be attributed to the other 2020 attractions in the SeaWorld parks that are not open. I think it all comes down to advertising and marketing in some way or another. They're trying to maximize profit and return on investment. But I do know one thing for sure, and that is Iron Gwazi is going to be an amazing ride if it ever opens. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this all the time. And comment below your thoughts on Iron Gwazi. When do you think it is actually going to open? This is Coaster Josh, signing out.